Hey there, Horne-Ellstrom here. What are you at odds with? Proximity paradox, perhaps? Proximity paradox, perhaps. I love that. Anyway, today is day 1728 of documenting my journey, primarily my business journey, as I transition from the brick and mortar corporate world of business and owning my own businesses to the online world of business. In 2017, following my divorce, I had the opportunity, didn't necessarily feel like an opportunity then, but it was, to do what I want, when I want, where I want, wearing what I want, with whomever I want, because I didn't have to answer to anyone anymore. My kids were growing up, and I was getting divorced. We were divesting ourselves of all the businesses that we had together. So I had the opportunity to say, okay, hey, I could retire and travel and do things, but my vision was deteriorating, so that didn't necessarily feel like a great option for me. I thought, I still have lots of energy. There's things I want to do. What am I going to do? I'd always been curious about the online world, so I hopped online and started to learn about the internet and how business works on the internet versus the offline world. And for a long time, I believed that people should have their businesses, but every business should have some sort of online presence. And I entered the world through ClickFunnels, and that's how I learned about the online world and I wanted an overview and a structure. I wanted some structure to learn about and then figure out what works and what doesn't work. Now, even with that structure, even with that great foundation and training, I still found ways to screw up and make mistakes, which is a little bit tied to our paradox today. For the annual challenge, our BU 365-day challenge, we've been talking about the life framework. I use a 9-part life framework as of last year to structure my goals and objectives in my life and try to, make some sense out of the chaos that is pretty much all of our lives, right? All of our lives are just what they are until we choose to add framework and structures to make sense of them. And the one I use is one I learned from Tony Robbins, a 7-part one, decades ago, probably in the 80s. And I've used it ever since. I think he got it from Jim Rohn, who probably got it from Napoleon Hill. You know how that goes. All the gurus work together, and all of them use one another's information and build upon and grow upon that. Kind of like all of the knowledge and wisdom we have in the world. And with the internet, there's so much of it that we have to pick and choose what's right for us, because everything isn't right for everybody. We only need to explore the things that are of interest to us and that feel right to us. So I used that. In the first 9 months, we spent a month on each of those areas. And now October, November, and December, we're mixing it up and combining it all, because we can't really just focus on one area or aspect of our life. Or you know what happens? We might have a sudden cardiac arrest and die. How do I know? Been there, done that. Don't recommend it. So we did that. Now we're talking about, for about 2-3 weeks this month, we're going to talk about paradoxes. And a paradox is something that when you first hear it, it sounds outrageous and absurd. When you think about it, you're like, maybe that is true. Maybe that's true for me. So today's paradox, I call the proximity paradox. I'm giving each one of them a name because it helps me remember it, and it reminds me of the paradox itself. And so today's says that the closer we try to keep someone or something, the closer and more tightly we try to hold on to something, the further away we actually push it from us, or the further away they will push them further away. Hope that's right. Let me read it to you. The more you try to keep someone close, the further away you'll push them. Now, has this ever happened to you? Definitely happened in my life before, right? Have you ever had a crush on somebody and they kind of liked you, but then you got clingy and they ran away, right? They ran the other way because they're like, nah, not ready for that yet. Or maybe the timing's just not right. It happens in every area and aspect of our life. Have you ever been too smothering as a parent or grandparent? Guilty as charged. My daughter and my son remind me all the time, back off, Mom, you're being too safety conscious, or warning them or telling us all the bad things will happen. My sisters used to tell me that when I was raising my kids, when my kids were little. I was always afraid that they were going to get killed or hurt or maimed or something, and so I did have an extra focus on safety. And that could be partly from my past experience. When I was a kid, man, I was a klutz, and I was always ripping my face open, which is why I have a crooked smile today. I fell on a trike. Stepping on rusty nails when they were putting in curb and gutter, getting slivers, this as long as my foot, sliding across the family floor. If there was a way to get into mischief and hurt myself, I found a way to do it as a kid. So I'm always, a little safety warning cautious, but the tighter we hold on to people or things or emotions or beliefs, the tighter we hold those, the more closely we hold those, the more we push. Well, we push the thing that we want away often. And it applies to everything. Think about money. People will do way more to avoid losing money or losing something. That's why we all buy insurance, right? There's whole industries based on, trillion-dollar industries based on our fear of loss, right? And our fear of losing something. We'll hold on to something more tightly than invest in things that will help grow and build whatever it is that we want. So, and there's been tons of scientific studies done on that. So proximity paradox today, and I paired that with the idiom at odds with. So at odds with someone or something. And I fessed up that when it comes to growing and building and supersizing my business, the biggest bottleneck, the biggest problem, the biggest challenge, the biggest thing that I often find myself at odds with is looking in the mirror, and it's myself. When it comes to growing and building anything or doing anything in our life, we first have to get through our comfort zone, right? We first have to be willing to push the edges of our comfort zone in order to do anything. And whenever I find myself resisting something, I'm trying to get really good at stopping and asking myself, why am I resisting this? Is it just because I've got conflicting beliefs? Because like every other human being on the planet, I have all these experiences and all these beliefs and all these things that have happened that cause me to have a certain mindset. And beyond that mindset, where it is right this instant, I can't even see all the other things and all the other possibilities. And it's when I notice myself shutting down or resisting or saying no to something automatically, which I'm one of those automatic no people at first. And my kids saw through it a long time ago, and they think I'm a pushover because I learned that in order to buy myself time, I would say no first, and then I'd get a couple minutes to think about it, and then I would be able to go back and say what I really wanted for the situation. I would have been better off just saying, hey, give me 5 minutes and I'll get back to you on that. But instead I would say, nope, not going to happen. And then I'd have to think about it and go back and say, okay, I guess you can go on that trip. You can go snowboarding with your friends today, again, I've learned a lot from being a parent. There's a lot that we learn from our personal relationships and parenting and things that totally applies to how we grow and build and supersize our businesses. So there's lots of lessons there. So, proximity paradox, at odds with someone or something. You can tell I got my work shirts on today because I've got a lot of projects that I'm working on, literally physical projects. And so I'm going to sign off. If I can help you in any way, ask. Otherwise, I will be with you tomorrow. Have a fantastic day. Don't be at odds with yourself.